Well, hello there. Good morning,
Hey.
good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are. Clifford, you just sneaked in during the
I did.
intro. Good. I
Yeah,
saw smoke coming out of your machine. We're all in the same studio. Does it look like it? Because we've set it up just like we're at home. Huh?
yeah,
Like all
yeah.
show business. Um, but yeah, you're all right over on your side of the studio. See, I can
I
touch you.
am. Yeah. Cool. No, so I got to poke you that way.
Yes.
I
Uh,
tried.
So glad you could join us. We will have Vladislav, yes or no? He had some issues. If you might
He's,
recall, he is still in kind of like an active war zone, so I guess we have to cut him some slack. I think he had a power outage. So a mad respect that he's even here still
yeah.
after all this time, but hopefully we'll see him come in and he will have something to talk about too. Brandon,
Yeah.
just back from Copenhagen. I can see you have a little tan.
Huh? Yeah, it's been a crazy month for me. Yeah, I was in Copenhagen last week. My wife's grandmother turned 90.
Oh,
So
wow.
we
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah, so we flew, or I flew, straight to North Carolina for a little birthday weekend celebration. Got home Monday night at about 2 a.m. and now I'm also rehabbing my shoulder. I learned I tore in a water polo tournament back in
Ouch.
July. So yeah, it's crazy. Life is wild. Oh, my suitcase broke. Like the wheels, the tread on the wheels literally came off. So
Oh,
I got to get a new
no.
suitcase. My passport's expiring. I'm a hot mess right now, guys.
It's okay. It's amazing that you're just here, like unscathed, sort of. Um, Great, glad to have
Barely
you here.
alive.
Yeah, barely alive, but still powering the community toolkit. So here he is on his last leg. So that's amazing. Um, James, what are you up to? You been good? Unmute. Perfect.
You there?
James.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a really nice summer. This so far this year, it's been really hot, and I've really enjoyed the weather.
Perfect, perfect. And you've been doing amazing work, as we will learn in a little bit on the media element that you continue to push on. So that's really, really great. All kinds of wonderful people in the chat. Stephen Kwan, special shout out to you. He says he's been watching all of our recordings, but now he's here live, so we can actually talk to you and you can talk back, and it's amazing. And you will be on this recording forever on the internet. So this moment is captured right here. George, our number one fan, as always. Lucas is also here. Wow, Ojun, I don't know who that is, but nice to see you here too. So let's get this started. First, we have a bunch of new releases. I'll be honest, we were getting a little bit cocky, right? The thing that we do is we do the stand up. Then the next Friday, we're like, we're going to release all the bits, right? If we have accumulated like a lot of changes, we're going to be like, hey, we're going to release all the bits on Friday. We're going to do it. Everyone tells us not to, but we can do it. And it went fine for a long, long time, but not this time. It was not our fault, in my defense. Um, but it didn't go out. Like the release is built, they did everything. It even said, "Hey, I pushed it to the get," but it didn't. Well, it kind of did, but there was something with the certificate, something that some other people had to figure out. Um, I don't know. There was some validation failing. We had to kind of like put our thumbprint in there. We kind of like juggled with the certificates there. But in the end, everything was there, and I think we released like all of our packages. Um, Most of them, I think, just bug fixes or even like a bump of like the new .NET MAUI version. But still good stuff. Still good stuff. So now we're on like
Yeah.
MAUI, kind of like the main package 903 markup 4.0. Media Element is catching up 4.02, and all the rest is there too. The camera view is still to
Oh, looks like we lost Gerald's mic. If you can hear me,
go.
Gerald. Oh, wait.
I can hear
Maybe.
you.
Oh,
You
there
can
we
hear
go.
me.
Now we can hear
Yeah.
you good.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Phew. I'm still here. I'm still here.
Well, the
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just say the big the big change that affected every package we publish is we removed our direct dependency on Microsoft.maui.controls.compatibility. To be honest, I didn't even realize we are doing it. It's a sneaky dependency that when you say in your CS project file, you say use MAUI and you set that to true, it brings in a lot of these dependencies automatically for you. So We had a community member open up an issue pointing it out, like, hey guys, like I don't think you need this, and also like I don't want I don't want the compatibility NuGet package in my app, so how about we pull it out? And he spun up a pull request and we got it merged. So should make everybody's NuGet sizes a little smaller. less dependencies are always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's even in for a good reason. Hopefully we can get rid of it soon. But it's in the default template, so probably that's why, like, everyone just copies and pastes, and that's probably how it got in there. But luckily, we have this amazing community who's like, hey, that doesn't look right. Maybe I should fix that for you. And so it happened. Awesome. So we don't seem to have any proposals right now. Probably summertime. James already mentioned it. Things are slow. People are on vacation. Well, at least on our side of the world. And
I
so
do have
go ahead.
a proposal listed, and it is listed for review.
Ooh,
oh, great.
Interesting. I think we have
Pull it up on
time
the
to see
fly.
what we have. So, Brandon, no pressure. Pull it up. Are we there yet? Can you find it?
Get to see exactly how I do this every week.
Mine
see
says
this one.
needs something.
Let's see. What's the title, James?
I just no author Neo Matrix.
Proposal, the top one there.
Yeah, a bunch of them.
Oh yeah. Indeed.
This one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I wanted to add basically have full support from Media Source for the artwork URL. So basically have support for local files, both the resource files and files for all devices.
Gotcha. Because what we've added now to MediaElement is that you can have, like, whenever something's not playing or you're playing just audio, you have like the little poster, I think some platforms call it, where you can show the artwork or whatever image you want, basically, right? And we have that implemented, which is super cool. Again, James, great work on the MediaElement, also this feature. But I think it only supports your URL right now, right? So
Yeah, it supports only a string URL, and I wanted to switch it to using a media source like we do for the MediaElement source itself.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good. So right now you can only do a URL, so you have to have kind of like an online hosted picture, which is not great, especially if you want to build like online apps. I'm not sure if you're going to do that with a MediaElement in there, but you can. Offline audio player, you can do that. So it would make sense to, have this as kind of like a property where you can load media from the local device too, right? That totally makes sense to me. And then you would use the media source. Why would it be a media source? Why not an image source?
I could rename it or alias it, but basically a media source fits all the needs for the specific type we need.
Okay.
It's a custom type, right, in MediaElement?
It is a custom type in MediaElement, yes. It supports exactly what we need to do. It has all the framework tooling that I need.
Converter.
Should it not be media image source or something like that then? So it doesn't say image, but you're using it for an image, so it doesn't speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a naming convention. Like, we just have to change the name.
Yeah. I was wondering if it should be, because an image source is what we would expect to put in there, so maybe media image source, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Or
media
just
image source works.
Why not the image source that is in .MAUI? I think we have an image source there with a couple of options, like, hey, load it from embedded resources, from a file, from whatever.
I'm not familiar with that. I know what I've been using with MediaElement, which is the media source, and the .NET MAUI directly supports an image source from both local files, resources, and URLs.
Yep. Brandon's pulled it up, the documentation.
Okay.
Where you can have, like, hey, we have a couple of image source things, like we have a file image source. What was what are the other ones? URI image source, so you can still load it from a URI, like from a stream, from a font. Not super useful in this case, I guess. But you got a couple of different variations.
Yeah, that actually looks even better.
Yeah, because I would hate to kind of like duplicate this type, which does I think, the thing that we want, while we already got it.
Well,
And
just
probably the
FYI,
reason why you don't know it, Brendan, I'll get to you, is like, hey, we also have like this type converter on there, right? So you just put in a string and we kind of like infer whatever you want to use and kind of like do it that way. So that's probably, hopefully, the reason that you don't even know about image source, because we're doing such a great job that you don't even have to know about it. Brendan, go.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this isn't new. We have the type media source already, and so like, yeah, in XAML you just plug it in like you're used to, and it just works. Thanks to the type converter. But even in C#, I've used it in I'm porting my Git Trends app and using MediaElement in there.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, there's a static factory method for media source. You say like media source dot from file, and you can.
But it kind of
your
implies
video file.
that we can also load videos in there, which is not something we can do, want to do.
Well, I mean, like when you're typing it in there, you're going, excuse me, MediaElement.meta artwork URL, and you would just basically put that as a source as equals media source dot from file or from resource. And the thing is, one of the great things about the media source is you can just literally just put in the file name if it's a local resource. So if it's a URL, you can just put in the URL, or like you could just put like MediaElement dot artwork URL, and then just put in the artwork URL and not worry about the media source at all, and it will just work. Whereas if it's from resource, media source from resource, you can just put in the file name without having to worry about putting like the embed thing in there or anything like that. And also with it's also familiar for people that use MediaElement.
That's true. Absolutely true. Yeah, the one thing I would worry about, like I said, like, hey, you can definitely use it for images, but I can see the issues already coming in, like almost at the bottom of the screen now, like the second to last paragraph, the last word says like embed my file.mp4. People will have the expectation of like, oh, I can play this video while I'm playing audio. Like, I don't think that's something that we want to do because that will complicate things. Maybe not.
But
Maybe
isn't
it's possible.
that putting it back to front though? Because otherwise, really, you should be playing a video and it's going to play the audio anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're going to name this like media source, then you set the expectation. I would think that you can, have this
play
kind of like metadata, as a separate thing, which will probably overcomplicate things, or maybe it's perfectly possible. I don't know. Then we can do it, but I don't know. I think personally, it would be more clear to use an image source, so that it's clear that it has to be an image.
I'm happy either way, like whatever the community wants.
Yeah, no,
I'm
good with the proposal, definitely. But yeah,
I think that makes sense. Because, like you said, we'll get an issue at some point. It's like I tried to use a video for the artwork URL and it doesn't work, and then we have to be like, well, that's not supported. So yeah, if it's just image source, then I think, like Gerald said, it reduces that expectation. Even though media source is totally valid and it works, but naming's hard. Assumptions are going to happen.
Naming is the hardest part.
And then we get stuck with the issues.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Community, like I see a couple of people chiming into the chat. Cliff asking like, hey, what do you think? Steven is asking like, hey, can it be an object that can contain either a media source or an image source? I love flexibility, but I feel that we're like being too flexible there.
Discriminating deviants, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But then you can put any object in there, right? So we also have to path some leaf for like, hey, what if it's not a media element or an image source?
Well, we could just use object.
That's what he's proposing. But no, that doesn't feel right.
Let's scope it down to image source, because we could always increase the scope to media source if somehow we do support video URLs in the metadata artwork. But yeah, I think it just sets the right expectation.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
The one tidbit, the other thing is like, hey, metadata artwork URL. I think we need to then change that to something else to not have URL in there. So that will probably down the path of like, hey, we need to deprecate this one, introduce a new one, remove that one. So it's going to take a couple of versions to actually phase it out, I guess. Or just, bump up the version by like a major version or something like that. But
something like metadata artwork source.
Yeah.
Or even image source.
Yeah,
Change the type to
metadata
image
artwork,
source.
image source.
Also,
Cool.
community, if you're watching the recording, you should be like Steven and come back to this live show. That's much better. But also, like, we put the link. Probably you can kind of like infer it from the screen, but we put it here in the chat. You should have been here. But I think the chat scrolls if you're watching the recording. So go there, put in your thoughts in that issue so that we can take them into account as well. Perfect. I think technically we should vote for this then, right? I think there's some things to etch out, but I think we kind of like all agree that this is something that we want to do. If there's anyone that objects. Oh, James is like, yes, you opened it. So I kind of assume that you want to do it.
Yeah, I'd say let's tweak the type and the naming.
Yeah.
We also don't have enough folks here to approve it.
We got some in the chat, haven't we? We got
Yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone's
Ivan, I see Ivan. He's already holding his hand up, or is he waving? I can't tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's if this isn't super critical. I mean, James, I know you've already got like 7 PRs open that we're behind on reviewing for you.
Yeah, I have no problem waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say let's update the type to image source, update the naming, and then next month, if we have some more folks, we can vote on it again and get it approved, because we need half. So what's that? 5, 6 nowadays?
6, isn't it? I think.
Yep.
I think 6.
Cool. All right. I go a little bit off script. I see this is not on there, but maybe I kind of like missed this too. I don't know if anyone else on here knows about this. I see George in the chat saying like, hey, I will need to raise a new PR for the rating view as the original was on the main repository. So I saw some chat about this in the Discord. We have a Discord server set up. If you're not aware, it's on the repository, right? So go there, click the link, and you can find us there, and you can chat with us directly, which is super cool. And George is now doing some work to implement the rating view. Is that something that we didn't port over yet, or what's going on with that?
No, that one's one that's kind of been stuck in purgatory.
Okay.
So we have a PR open, which is what George is pointing out. But basically, the contributor kind of abandoned it, which is fine. You know, things pop up in life. So George volunteered to take it over. So yeah, George, that sounds totally cool. Take whatever you need from this PR. Once your PR is open, George, we can close the original rating view PR. No problem at all.
Perfect. George says, I picked it up. I'm moving it forward. So rating view coming next week. That's what George says. No, it's coming. It's coming. No expectations. But it's great to have something worked on. So that's perfect. Okay, one issue for me. I saw it pop up here on the agenda. I don't recall, honestly, why I put the needs discussion on there, but probably because I thought it would be nice to discuss here a little bit. So at some point, I was looking into adding the camera view to one of my projects or a sample, or I think it did a video on it. I think that was it. And I was playing around with it. And then I came to the conclusion, like, hey, we have this amazing command that we can use to trigger the actual capturing of the image, right? So we have a little camera view inside of our .MAUI app, and we can say, hey, do this little command, capture image command, to actually capture the frame that you see right then and there. And you can transport that into an image. But to get the actual image, you still need to hook it up to an event. So that kind of like, breaks the MVVM pattern. You cannot take images with just using pure MVVM. And that's something that we probably want to have. So yeah, that was kind of like the bug I logged. I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And actually, let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Someone from the community actually recommended that you can just use the event command behavior.
Yep.
Also from the toolkit right now. So we've got a nice workaround for it. But yeah, I totally agree, Gerald. I think that's just something we missed when we were implementing it. But
yep,
seems like a no-brainer. What do you need from us to push it forward?
Nothing. Actually, maybe I'll take some time. I shouldn't do promises, but it doesn't seem too complicated. Famous last words. So maybe I'll have a stab at it like tomorrow or next week somewhere.
I remember when MediaElement full screen, I thought that was going to be simple.
Yes, but that's also the case with a lot of .NET MAUI bugs, where we're like, oh, I'll just fix this little thing, and then you rabbit hole right into it, and then you're like, nope, I'm never touching this again. So yeah, that's
And the most complicated things end up being a simple one-liner fix.
Yep,
of course
that happened too.
I literally spent 2 hours yesterday on. There was a PR that came through for his touch behavior, and it was broken with this very specific scenario in collection view when multiple items selected mode is enabled, and just trying to reproduce it because the reproduction sample was pretty light. I spent hours digging into this, and literally the fix was one line of code, maybe 6 characters, but those quick, easy PR reviews that we get sucked into. It's like, this is one line of code. I'll review it real quick. Well, I should probably verify it fixes the fix. But I think this one seems like a no-brainer, and I love that there is a workaround here so folks aren't stuck.
Built into the community toolkit, so we're just basically helping ourselves out, and someone from the community pointing that out too. So that's really great. Always a good practice. Like if you have a workaround that you figured out for this bug, always add it to the issue if it's not there already. Like that will help get people unblocked. That can even be like a contribution to the community as a whole, right? So that's really, really amazing.
Oh yeah, we already got a couple thumbs up here.
Yes, obviously, thumbs up, always good. Okay, James. Time for you to speak to this. Update MediaElement to use Media3 because this is like the next beta version. So there's a little bit of a backstory here before I let you talk about these games. Google has this habit of like pushing out APIs and then leaving it in beta forever. They also do it with the services. Like Gmail has been in beta for like 10 years or something. And they do the same kind of like for I think their CameraView too has gone from like alpha to beta. I think it's still not in a stable thing. And I think they do kind of like the same thing for their MediaElement stuff as well. So that makes it kind of like hard to bet on it. Like, hey, are we going to implement it now? Should we wait? What's going to happen?
About 60% of the current APIs are unstable, meaning they're brand new and there's no guarantee they'll be supported from one point version to the next. They could be removed in a blink of an eye.
But James did it, or he's working on it. It's still a draft.
Actually, no. What has happened is I've pushed, the PR that I had in the Xamarin Android X library has been pushed, and that means we are unblocked. That means all I have to do now is actually verify everything's working, and then get everybody to review it, and it's golden.
That's pretty awesome.
I just have to verify everything's working. Basically, what I had to do is it was a simple removal node on a deprecated API that we weren't even using.
Does that also mean that we now
we can do all the button stuff that I wanted to do over the last year? Yes.
Perfect.
As soon as we get the update to the NuGet package pushed out, probably in another week or two. And then probably one more version upgrade on the NuGet package before we can do the button work, but we're actually unblocked for everything else.
Cool. And this also replaces, like I see already, like, hey, port from ExoPlayer to Media3, because right now we're using the ExoPlayer bindings from good friends from the Xamarin community, even back then, who were like we're super thankful that they still updated them to work for .NET MAUI, and I think we've been in touch with them. Like, hey, do you want to maybe maintain the whole binding, which is not something that we necessarily look for. But are we getting rid of that dependency as well? We're now
we're fully on Xamarin Android X.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, the thing was the Media3 was the only thing we really needed from them directly. Like, cool. And the thing was is they fully did everything we needed for Media3 and decided not to push it because they found out Xamarin was doing it. So they decided to stop the PR and just told the Xamarin people, hey, look at all the work we've done. How about you grab that and use that as a basis for what you're doing?
Cool. Community at work here. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Love it.
So that means the great thing about that is that means the buttons that we weren't able to control in the API 33 and 34 for the notifications will now technically be capable of working. It actually didn't work up until I think until July of this year, because Google had basically a bug in their own API that prevented anyone from making it work until like I think December of last year. So that's why whenever you looked at your browser, it was just a pause and play button on all your devices for all your like various apps, was because the override for the previous, next, and all the other buttons just didn't work. And Spotify had to write their own library to make it work originally.
Does this have built-in support for full screen?
Pardon?
Does Media 3 have built-in support for full screen, or we still need to?
We already had it. Like
yeah, sure.
We're clicking a button.
Sure. I totally understand. Okay, perfect. This sounds perfect. Brandon, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to confirm. So, James, I know you opened a PR on the Android library to fix what we were blocked on.
Yeah.
So that's merged, but technically we are still blocked because we have to wait for that NuGet package to come out first.
Correct.
Then
Yes.
that unblocks. Okay, cool. So we got
that's like a week or two.
Days, couple weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited. There's a lot of annoying warnings we get in our library about using obsolete.
Yeah. And I had that other PR to do MediaElement events. We don't need to go over that today, but that will basically allow you, at least with all devices, to know when full screen happens or not, like when it goes in and out of full screen. And basically that's just waiting for review.
Perfect.
Sounds good. I'd say my recommendation is like let's merge this one first. Let's get Media 3 in, because I could see that trickling through and breaking other things. So we don't want to add more in to other PRs than.
No, I want to totally hold off on everything that I'm doing until we get this done. I just want to mention a bunch of other things I've also got going. You know.
Is this? Is this change going to be a major release of MediaElement then? Because it's such a.
There'll be no obvious differences for developers. There's like no changes in behavior. It's all under the hood. It's like the equivalent of, like renaming stuff that they never touch.
Okay.
Like all of the APIs don't change for the developers or for the users. Visually, there's no difference. What it means is essentially things like it's all stuff behind the scenes that are changed. One of the major differences is, excuse me, up until now, we had manual control of almost every level of the API for doing things like notifications. Google, at their I/O a couple of years ago, said, hey, of the top 100 apps, 50 or more of them have issues with basic bugs in the media controls. And so they took away all of that control and basically put an API in so you could do various customizations to it. But as of now, for any device using Android 14 or later, you can't manually control anything anymore. Like you can hook APIs to get the information or to modify things, but you can't directly control it. So things like playback control, you use their controls. You don't like you can skin them. You can like put your own labels on them, but like as what we did for like previous devices where we had the media buttons and all that, and all of the manual controls and all of those elements, where I had to like write hundreds and hundreds of lines of code to make it work, that's all gone as of Android 33. And with Android 34, they took even more controls away, and essentially it's a lot more automated, and it's a lot less like if there's a problem, you contact Google, not us, type thing. I guess it's an issue with the actual source not allowing you to have the choices you had before to modify and like you don't, the manual things you had to set up before, what would take 100 lines of code is now 1 line. Is essentially what it is.
Nice.
Love
And
it.
I'll say, just circling back to what Cliff said about bumping up the major version, I'd say we still bump our major version, even though there's technically no breaking changes. But you know, that major version for developers signals like, hey, maybe go look at the release notes before updating, and should give them a heads up. Well, including the release notes, to give them a heads up that, like, just so you know, we ripped out the guts on Android and totally replaced them. So beware. But
Yeah, I agree. Also, like, if you're just using like pure media element with what we built, then there should be no breaking changes. But if you created like a custom handler or something that hooks into the stuff that is using like the old types, those can break, right?
That would break, yeah. A lot of those would break, almost all of them.
So we still would have kind of like a possibility of breaking changes at least. So I definitely think that would be a good signal, and we should definitely bump the major version. But we'll see that when we get there, basically. Breaking change. Boom. It's on there now. It's
Done.
official.
all right.
Nice. Brandon, add AOT compatibility. I think this is very important for .NET 9 work, right?
Yeah, so this is hot off the presses. Mostly, so yeah, the original plan was let's wait till .NET 9 comes out because that's when the official AOT support for MAUI is coming. But I saw that the MAUI team has finished that work, so I dove back into this literally just an hour ago, like right before, and I think we can merge this because so check this out. I came in here. This is what I did today. I came in, added all these warnings as errors. So everything IL2 whatever and IL3 are trim warnings, AOT warnings. So for some reason, or I couldn't figure out how to get these turned on by default. So I just manually came in here and added all of the IL 2000, 3000 warnings, and then was just going through and essentially just, you know, it's just like when you enable nullability, you just start smacking down errors. So I was actually curious. Oh, it's not even, we're not past our CI build yet. All right. Well, we're getting closer. I was hoping it was building on my machine. So I'll have to dig into this and see what's going on. But
Or we ship your machine.
Oh, yeah. We can do that. I'll just make a little Docker image.
So do that.
But yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards we enable this now in .NET 8 rather than wait till 9. But also, I don't know. I'm not an expert on AOT and trimming and what the MAUI roadmap is. But like I said, I was able to get it through with no more errors. There is one thing, actually, Gerald, I'll flag this to you and I'll follow up offline. In the, let's see if I type in converter, can I find it real quick? So the I value converter, nope, that's not it. I community toolkit value converter, there we go. Oh, it's not the file though. Oh, there we go. Okay, scrolling down to here. Okay, I added some if-defs here because there's one warning I can't get rid of, and that's because the MAUI team has to go into iValueConverter.convert and add on this attribute.
Oh,
so
okay.
This warning is saying, hey, just so you know, this doesn't match the this doesn't match the intended type of the interface you're inheriting from. And so I think it's fine for us to disable it. I have a slight concern that this lets the compiler know that our code is safe, but then the underlying code might get trimmed away. I don't know. I've been meaning to, I want to run our app in AOT. So I enabled AOT on the sample app as well. So we'll see build errors if anything happens. But yeah, I figured I'll run the app with full AOT on with .NET 8 and see if I can still use converters. And if I can, then I think we're good to go. And we could get this in for .NET 8 and not have to wait for .NET 9 because those are always big PRs where we have to update
Yep.
everything. So that might save us a step.
Perfect. Yeah, I wrote this one down. Let's indeed follow up and see if we can fix something. If we're going to run into this, then probably other people will as well. So,
Yeah.
So
I went and checked
Go
the
ahead.
source code, specifically like the .NET 9 source code too, and those attributes are not there. So I think
Okay.
what I might recommend, and again, we'll dive into this offline, but is that the team add in these wordings as errors like we did here, and we can just copy paste this so I don't have to type all these keystrokes like I did. Because
Well, if you need somebody to pound away and test this, I can help with testing. I may not understand exactly what it does, but I can recognize an error message when I see one.
I mean, basically, like, as long as our sample app still works. So in the sample app,
Yeah.
I enabled AOT in release mode. So with this PR, run the sample app in release mode, and then just go through every single page, make sure everything still works. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it... Nah, I was going to say unit tests wouldn't pick it up because the unit test wouldn't be AOT.
Well, I have that device testing for using APM.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I can basically play around with that and get that configured so that I can start setting it up so it tests each of the things in each of the pages. And I'm going to do them a little bit by little bit, and then once it's all complete and tested out, I can present it to the community as. Because the thing is it's not really that useful until it's done.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Cool. Thanks, James. And we've got a lot of discussions.
Cliff is basically going to talk for the next 20 minutes until we'll just leave. Cliff,
okay.
just whenever you're done, okay?
So these are, remember, well, a long time ago we said that if anything goes through the trigger of 6 or more upvotes from the community, then we'll talk about it on the meetup. Well, I went through and spent a number of hours in the last week, having got back off holiday, just catching up on discussions, because I've got to 7 pages discussions. So I went through and closed quite a lot and that, and then worked out that I was just taking the upvotes on the initial like kind of thing like that's been done there, and then actually if we look further down, there's a comment from somebody else and they've given it even more upvotes. So I've added them together and picked out the ones that actually trigger. So you see there's 6 there, but then further down there's more upvotes of the actual overall. So this one here is adding barcode scanning to the new camera library we have, because it wasn't one before. Lots of people say we should stick with the Redif's what's it called, in Zebra Crossing library, which is out there and it works. But then you read through the comments that are on the library, it's not been touched for over a year. And it's stuck in a preview version of 0.41, I think it is. So that's blocking some people. So
He basically said he's not supporting it anymore. He's like, I made the change to MAUI and then left it in preview, and it's open source if anybody wants it.
Yeah, exactly. So do we bring it into the community toolkit, what has been done over there, or do we start again with what's being suggested here? And there's different versions. Vlad's actually got, if you go to the very bottom there, Brandon, Vlad's actually got, I think I linked it in my comments at the very end. Vlad's got a version that works on his blog, that covers it all off and works really well. So we could just bring that in, which is using the Zebra Crossing, but just the actual main library rather than Redis version of it. It works on all the platforms. So we could, bring that across if Vlad's happy for that work to be copied across. May work, but it just needed us to talk about it because it hit the limit for us to talk. So I think we should, if Redif's not actually bringing up to date his library. MAUI does need a barcode scanner. I need it in a project I'm about to start working on. So, there's a little bit of inside kind of need there for myself, and it's getting the upvotes. So I think we should bring it across. But it's what one we do. Do we bring Redis version across, or do we use Vlad's version? Vlad's version supports Windows. Redis one doesn't, or didn't. I think it does now when I dug into it, but What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it works. But yeah, it was my implementation and reusing that things library for just barcode scanning. So for Windows, it's the whole implementation of that I described in my blog post is just getting a screen like a screenshot and capture just a media, and after that just convert it to format that barcode library understand and that just try to parse. So it's platform agnostic actually, but it very depend on how we can convert this image, because the most challenges part were just to convert it to the special format that that library understands, because it's different for Android, iOS, and Windows.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
We
So
can
it's just
pass
what we
it
want to do.
upstream, huh?
Sean's in the chat on YouTube. There you go. I won't read it out. You can all read quicker than I can speak. So he wants to talk about exposing the ability rather than just the actual barcode scanning. So what do we think? There's 5 of us plus Sean in the chat. There's 6 of us, so we've got enough to vote on it. Do you want to bring this or start looking into bringing barcode scanning using our camera library into Community Toolkit, or just leave everyone with, zebra crossing and Redif's implementation of it?
I can just also add that, and actually Google has its own library that works offline that really fast. And if you, Brendan, open page that I shared my blog post, probably if you scroll down where there is a sample of Android, yeah, this one, and you can see it works pretty fast. So it's a cross-platform library by Android. Actually, there are 2 versions. One just for Android, and also Google implemented for iOS. But yeah, it has some variations. But overall, actually, I would prefer using this approach rather than that thing library, because this one works much faster, much better according to recognition of the barcode, because that library, that thing library has some known issues. And actually CameraView MAUI just also uses that library, and it also has some known issues. Yeah.
Does that not then tie us only to Android and iOS for a barcode scanner, rather than Windows being allowed to do it as well?
Yeah, as for Windows, it's a good question how often you try to scan barcode using Windows.
But my project is going to be using Windows.
Yeah.
I pointed my laptop at a table to take a picture, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the moment we're just looking, should we, and then look at the implementation in the discussion. But I think it's a vote of, do we carry this forward and turn it into a proposal from a discussion? There's 6 of us now, so we can vote. For me, I vote that we do.
Hey, Sean.
Sean's here as well now.
I don't know if I can add a little bit of extra context. I know the title says barcode scanning support, but I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm on.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just surprised.
I don't have my headset or anything.
He's so passionate about this. Sean wasn't going to be here, and he's like, "I'm going to log in." Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. So if you scroll down, what you'll end up seeing is this proposal now suggests. Oh, I'm looking at it on the TV and it's delayed, isn't it? So I best look at the screen. So yeah, the idea is that we'll end up, in a way, exposing the ability to capture the frames on the platform-specific layers, which will then allow developers to utilize things like ML kits or vision kits and therefore not have to deal with the overhead of converting images from the platform layer across to a shared code base. So I've done the research for the Android and the Mac OS, the Google and the APIs, and they look relatively simple and also almost symmetrical in the same. Like you add the ability to process something on either platform. They have slightly different names. It's then working out how we do on Windows. That's the one thing I haven't got to yet.
I think Morton's posted one slightly lower down, hasn't he? But I know you've commented below that it doesn't quite fit your needs, but I now understand what you're thinking. I like the idea.
Yeah, I think the idea was we could do the platform-specific layer and then also some shared layer. So if a developer said, well, I want to do ZXing, I don't really care about performance, they can. They'll get some level of conversion and deal with that overhead, but they'll be able to run image processing in the shared code library. Or if they want to go for the most performant, then they go for the platform-specific implementations and make use of things like ML kits and whatever else. So
it makes sense.
My initial proposal at the moment, I mean, I'm still working through this, but I'm thinking that we would just expose the ability to do the image processing rather than actually give them barcode scanning support. And then as a follow-up, we could then, or maybe as part of the implementation, we then put that code into the sample to show how you could do it, and then follow up with a PR to then move that into something that's reusable. Because I also suspect that that will be another package to bolt on, because it will bring in, has the potential to bring in further dependencies. Because MLKit doesn't ship. That's something you have to pull in as well, according to the Google documentation. So we then have to have something else that relies on that. And therefore, I don't think we'd always want to ship that on the camera package.
I think it's fine
my
to slap
vote.
another NuGet package into communitytoolkit.maui.camera. But yeah, no, Sean, I think you've got it all figured out, man. I like that kind of staged approach.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll
sounds-
try and get documenting that a bit better before. Maybe now's not the time to vote. I can
Yeah.
work
Yeah,
on
your
this.
approach sounds a lot better than what I've seen from before.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the first one then. Got my next one is now.
Bump this up to approve. All yays, no nays.
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right. Only 7 more discussions.
Yeah,
Well,
we're a little bit faster now.
We're almost up to an hour, so maybe we only do a few this month and a few next month. I didn't expect it to bring them all through, but yeah.
In the chat.
He's in the chat. We invited him along. He's got talking about a proposal for a mass expression converter. I see no reason why we can't bring this in. If people are going to use it, and he's already done the work, I believe. He can put in the chat if he has. So I think this is just a simple kind of mass converter. If you scroll down, you can see some use cases. He's got it implemented in his fork, so it just needs a PR to bring it across, and allows you to bind and do some maths within XAML. Yeah, so he said in the chat, yep, it's all done. So it's just, He's got the votes, so I was like, well, why not? If there's anyone can spot an issue or problem.
I mean, so this is specifically like greater than, less than. I was trying to find like which functions are new. Are these the existing ones or the new ones?
I believe they're the new ones. Sorry, the grammar is, they're the new ones, yeah. I think that's what he's got, yeah. And then you read the text underneath.
Oh, I see. Conditional, logical or, logical and equality.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would possibly ask is whether math expression converter is still a good name for it.
Is that because we might had things later that are not maths.
Well, we're going to add
Math,
less maths.
well, I mean, yeah, less than well, yeah.
Just computer math or Boolean math.
Just expression convert. Well, then a bit vague. I'm not against functionality, not at all. It's more just how we make it clear.
Back to naming is hard again.
Quit
Yeah?
being so pedantic.
Yeah. As George says in the chat, naming is harder than math. So yeah, I agree with you there, George. So just a vote. Should we approve it?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Approved. That was quick.
Ooh, I like this one.
This one I can get behind too. Anything to add to MediaElement, I'll go for.
Yeah, and this was this is one of those ones where the initial proposal only got a couple of votes. When you look further down, lots of people are upvoting it. So you know, it got tagged as I was going through in a bit more detail in the last few days. Yeah, and it'll then.
The one thing I will mention is this won't solve all authentication issues, as our live stream authentication specific for like Dash and HLS video, that would be completely separate from this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
But this is good for like authenticated HTTPS.
Yeah, like this was the killer discussion point to me. It was like, oh yeah, duh. Like, what if you need a bearer token? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, end of discussion. Like, okay, we should add this. James, is this easy to do? Have you looked into
I
this?
honestly don't know. I haven't done much HTTP work, but I can look into it in the next couple of days and figure out whether or not I can do it. It shouldn't be that hard. I've done a lot more complicated things recently. I just have zero knowledge about it. If somebody else wants to do it, they're welcome to do it. But if there's nobody else wants to do it, I'll gladly look into it.
yeah.
I did ask the question, and I'm not sure if someone did say. Well, they asked if I guide them how to do it, and I pointed them to the contributor.
Well, I mean, if they want to do it, and I'm happy to guide them through the whole PR process. You know, if you can find them, I can contact them and see if they want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we can reach out on here. We can tell them it's approved, and
It's Caps IR at the very bottom has offered to help out. I'm not sure if you scroll to the bottom. Yeah, there you go. That's the one that's offered to help out.
Okay, he's the one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
That sounds
yeah,
good.
maybe they can help. So,
Yeah,
but it
maybe-
gets my vote.
Likewise, I'd say, James, if you want to follow up here, you could probably...
Yeah, I'll post their
in there.
later to tomorrow because I'm tired right now.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody opposed?
Nope.
Ship it.
Nope,
All right, cool.
nope.
Azure Maps.
This next one I didn't add needs discussion to. It seems like it's Gerald and Vlad that have been chatting about this one, so I'm not sure where this has come from, but it's not me.
Yeah, so this one is kind of interesting. Let me just give you the 1 minute summary, hopefully. So, yeah, a couple of people pinged me on a video, by the way, I think mostly, with like, hey, Bing Maps does not give out API keys anymore. So if you have currently an API key, you can sell it on eBay for a lot of money. But they're not giving out new API keys anymore because they're going to stop using Bing Maps. And they're going to replace it with Azure Maps. So then it's kind of interesting because now we also have like a official WinUI map control that technically we should be able to implement in .NET MAUI, right? Because that's how the whole Windows map came to us. There wasn't a map control on WinUI. .NET MAUI team said like, we are not really going to build our own control. Then we said like, okay, as kind of like a stopgap solution, we can create one built on top of Bing Maps, Web UI, not good, but at least we'll have something. So that's what we did. So now we're kind of like in the situation of like, okay, is the .NET MAUI team going to actually implement the WinUI control, which is actually based on Azure Maps. And if they're not, or if they're not going to do it in time, are we going to turn our thing into Azure Maps and maybe just adopt the WinUI map control so that we can easily upgrade that and donate that to the MAUI team with like, hey, here we've done the work. You should be able to copy and paste this mostly, and please take it. So yeah, that's kind of like the situation right now and what we want to do.
Huh. Well, it sounds like our maps. Is it safe to say like our current implementation of our maps NuGet package is essentially obsolete now? That it
Yes.
does Bing
Not until 2025.
Well, technically, if I'm a
And the
new
key-
user, I want to implement maps, I cannot do it with my package because I cannot get an API key.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the question is, do we want to just scrap that, or do the work to implement Azure Maps? So Gerald, we have
If
to
only we
implement-
knew.
We should probably update the docs to mention that you can't get new keys anymore, because
That might be a good idea.
otherwise, yeah.
And if someone on the inside of MAUI lands could point out whether it's going to get implemented as a WinUI tool, maybe it should be raised over there as an issue.
Yep.
Rather than here.
I definitely put in the issue. I don't think it's a priority for us right now. So that's kind of the thing. I don't, if this were to happen, then probably we need to step up, or someone in the community needs to do it. We don't see a lot of traction yet. And that's also kind of like on our side, right? Like we have it. We don't see a ton of traffic on it. So there's probably a couple of people using this who will be unhappy. Very sorry. But on the .NET MAUI side, we can't really justify the effort right now to put it in there because there's not a ton of traction on the issue with like, oh, a ton of upvotes or comments, like I need this, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of like one of the factors that we take into account with like, hey, how many people can we service with this? So yeah, kind of not great.
Yeah, not a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if.
But there's still 600 people that could be very upset.
Absolutely.
Well, 600 downloads. So.
Yeah.
So it's Vlad and VJ.
Yeah.
I will be
Retrying
very
pipelines.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards kind of what you said, Gerald, with the usage, the demand. This feels like a big lift. I agree that we certainly could. We already have a home for it in the Maps NuGet package specifically, so there's no concerns there. But is it more important than the work James is doing on Media3 or the AOT support or like even pop-up service? We're still behind on that and rating views, so I don't know if we can prioritize it or should prioritize it, but maybe that's a question for the community. Like,
Yeah,
let us know.
I left a comment there. So my suggestion is just to wait till .NET 9. Yeah, if .NET MAUI team doesn't implement it till .NET 9, so we can upgrade it to use the Azure native implementation, just like the same using JavaScript.
Yeah, we can always just wait until. We can always just wait until, like as Vlad said, until .NET 9, and if they implement it, great. We don't have to do anything. We can just deprecate it. If not, we can relook at the issue, and if there's completely dead and nobody's doing anything, everybody's bored, maybe somebody wants to take it up then.
I don't think we should deprecate it just because we again break maps control, because actually we only the one.
No, I'm saying if MAUI implements it.
So my suggestion is just to update our control to use Azure Maps or just update using WinUI map control. Probably, Carol, maybe if native WinUI control requires Azure key as well, or just control.
Oh, I haven't looked into it that deep yet. I assume there is some. Oh, actually, now that you mention it, I'm not sure. Hopefully, it will just be kind of like a new API key.
if it doesn't require API key, it would be a significant
I think it will
improvement.
require something at the latest,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking I read maybe something about Entra ID and that kind of scary stuff, which would complicate things, I guess. But on the other hand, like, you know, if you're going to build an app, you just want an API. I don't know. We need to look into that too. But that's already like diving into the implementation, right? I think the first question is like, do we even want to spend our time right now doing this? I think keep the package until they really pull the plug on like the Big Maps API. At least the people who have it right now can keep using it. Add a note to the docs. I think that's a good idea. I'll do that right away tomorrow. And then kind of like see if we can either join forces with the .NET MAUI team to kind of like do it, or give them at least a little bit of a starting point or hand or whatever, or maybe I'll get bored over the weekend and just do it.
I was gonna say,
don't know.
It sounds like you're going to be the one that ends up
Yeah,
either for us
probably.
or for .NET
Really.
Yeah, I think for now I'm cool with unless anybody's opposed to it, we can approve it. It doesn't mean we're prioritizing it. It doesn't mean it's going to the top of the list, but if somebody from the community wants to come pick it up.
Yep.
All right.
I think the next one has been already talked about, because I didn't add the need discussion to that as well. But I think
Yeah, we
James has already mentioned this already. Yeah.
Or, no, 3 weeks ago. Feels like we talked about it last month.
No, we talked about it earlier. James mentioned earlier that he's going to start adding the bits to Appium. So I didn't add the need discussion to this either, but
Yeah, I've done most of the work for that, for at least for MediaElement. And what I want to do is open it up so that basically everybody from the team can contribute to it, because I would find it overwhelming to write all of the entire sample app into Appium, simply because a lot of it is just copy paste once you know how to do it. And I put together samples for how to pretty much do everything, including navigating menus. And if you look there at any of the files, you can just quickly see how to navigate menus once you scroll down far enough.
Okay, yeah. Adding automation IDs.
Yeah.
Are you using the page object pattern? Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure. If you just scroll down, you can see how I did it.
So basically, the page object pattern is, well, you go through and add automation IDs to everything. So you're already doing it there. But then you essentially create a class in your UI test folder. So each page in the app will have a class, and that class has methods like tap the image button or tap submit or anything you can do on the page. And then your tests are as easy as just referencing that class and saying tap the button. That way you can reuse code. So if there's tests that have to use multiple pages to test multiple things, or you...
That sounds like a much better way than the way I did it.
It's a old school method of how we used to do it back in the day with Xamarin Apps, so I assume it's still valid today. But I think UI tests are great. I was kind of bummed when Xamarin UI tests didn't make it over to MAUI, but if we got to use Appium, we got to use Appium.
That's what we're doing for MAUI. So follow our lead.
Because the nice thing here, I mean, this is going to be a big lift, but once it's in place, then
if you can possibly link me some samples for how to do how to set up the class testing, so it's a lot easier for people to implement. You should provide some samples if you could, or at least link me to some articles about it. It'd be nice.
Sure.
Yeah, the one thing about... Oh, go ahead.
Go for it, Jared. I was going to say, I'll link you to... I haven't finished porting my Git transap to MAUI, so this is still Xamarin. But the UI tests in here use that page object pattern.
Oh, I can just look at that then, no problem, yeah. That's completely portable, yeah.
Yeah, the thing about UI tests is also how we're going to run it, like with apps that are going away. I have also like a sample, and I got it working with just stock GitHub action builders, but it's not always. And I guess that's kind of like that was also the case for Xamarin UI test, and I guess for any UI test, right? Like you're very dependent on emulators or devices, and they boot up, and you're adding like all these variables that need to suddenly work together. So what we see is that not always super stable. You have to retry a couple times and then it suddenly works. So, hopefully it won't be that bad, but it will definitely be good to explore this, at least for us, and see if we can get some coverage this way.
The one thing that with the page object model that might be an issue for these tests is the behavior with APM can be device specific in terms of what works and what doesn't. And in fact, in terms of Mac Catalyst versus even iOS itself, the behavior is different enough that you can't actually use the same method to test. So you would have to have basically a library of tests that you would, like what we do for MAUI, where you have like one button you press, but it would do a different thing in each device.
Yeah, I'd say, James, in just the hierarchy of where to prioritize time, device unit tests would be where I would prioritize. Like, I think before, this device test runner. So Pedro opened up this PR. So this is pretty old. We'll need to resurrect it, but it's essentially allows us to run unit tests on our iOS specific code, on our Android specific code, on our Mac Catalyst specific code, and this will give us more gain than the UI test. And so I'd say if we're going to do testing, I would put effort into device unit tests first, because we can always click around in the sample app. Like I do that when PRs open up about bug fixes. I'll open up the sample app, make sure everything works. Would it be cool to have that automated? Absolutely. But I think value-wise, because these device unit tests can be done in our CI/CD pipeline, those will give us a bigger gain than the UI tests, which you typically just run them locally, or back in the day we had Xamarin Test Cloud and App Center Test. We could automate stuff there, but I'm not aware of any way to automate UI tests nowadays in a CI/CD pipeline.
Oh, it is possible. It isn't cheap.
On our $0 budget.
Yeah, $0 budget means no, but yeah,
So
this is more for people to test new features out when they're working on, what they're developing, so that when I update MediaElement, there isn't some obvious thing that we miss when you click on X button 14 times. What happens? Like something goes wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you already have something done, even if it's specific to MediaElement, that's fine. And we could always add in new tests as, say, like bug fixes pop up. Like I was saying earlier, I spent a couple hours creating a reproduction sample for a bug fix yesterday. Probably what I do next time would be to add the UI test. So yeah, I'd say if you already got something and it's complete for MediaElement, we can merge that, but I wouldn't invest too much time. This could be something we chip away at over time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Should we go on it then? Approved. There you go. I think next one is real quick. We discussed it last month, but there wasn't enough of us to actually vote it through. So this is the source generation.
Yeah, because we merged that PR, the source generator PR for bindable properties.
Yeah, it's our internal source generator.
So, what's this? I forget. What's this one specifically add? Or is this what we talked about last month and we did it?
We talked about it last month because I closed it and then I was asked to reopen it, so I reopened it. And it talks about last month, but I honestly can't remember the conversation from last month because it was a month ago. And I'm getting old. My brain doesn't store stuff that long anymore.
I'm trying to remember too. I mean, Vlad, or who was it? Vlad? Were you the one that pushed that PR across the finish line, the bindable property source generator one?
So that's all. If there's been a PR, then we can just close this off and reference the PR.
Yeah, let me grab that link here. I'm not familiar enough with this discussion to know if it's looking for specific feature, but yeah, we definitely have this. Well, it's also internal, so
yeah, I think they were looking for it to be.
yeah.
I think we said last month that we would merge it and play with it.
That's what I think we agreed, actually. Yeah.
To give them an idea as to whether we would want to ship it to the public.
Yeah. So I'm quite happy to reference them to this PR, and then reclose this discussion again. Okay. Cool.
I don't. Yeah, you've written it to me. That's fine.
Yeah. This one.
This one again, huh?
Yeah. It's come back again. I think this is just left over from last month, and it didn't have the needs discussion tag removed. Looking at it now.
I don't remember chatting about it last month, but I do remember when this popped up, I guess, back in January. So I get what he's saying. He's saying that, you know, the .use MAUI community toolkit extension method brings in all this stuff for dependency injection. So, like, that's where we register things like pop-ups. And, I mean, I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I look at, or I think about, like, the amount of effort required to implement it, maintain it. I don't think it's worth it. I mean, yeah, the linker doesn't remove pop-up and you're not using pop-up. Maybe that adds like 12 kilobytes to your app size. Is that worth the hours for us to do it? You know, like if there was, I think if there was a blocker or something like pop-up's always throwing an error in my app, even though I'm not using it, then I think we'd have a little bit more impetus to move forward with this. But, you know, everything's open source. If you don't want to, say, use MAUI Community Toolkit and you just want a converter, you could always copy-paste the converter. So, like, I don't think anybody's blocked on this. Are they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, like I said, like this one just, again, I totally understand where he's coming from. And if we had infinite time, sure. But to me, this just feels like future bugs where, like, so if we add a use for everything that we actually need to use, and then use MAUI Community Toolkit would call all these mini use methods, something's going to get missed in the future. Documentation, we have to keep all those docs up to date. So
he's got a sample at the bottom of the page of what he's thinking. I've forgotten his name now.
Yeah, like I said, to me.
Yeah, there you go.
So I get what he's saying, but to me, it's a massive lift for what's the gain, right? You save a couple kilobytes in your app size.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it.
No.
It's, you know, if somebody came to us with like a checkbook, it was like, we need this for our production app, and we're willing to provide support and pay you for your time, like, okay, but yeah, I don't see anybody else clamoring for this. And, you know, I forget his name as well, but we'll call him Dramber. He's very vocal about optimization, things like this, which I think is good, but at the same time, he hasn't contributed. So it's very much, I need this, do it for me. And if we have to look at our time and what we prioritize.
Yeah, I think George has got it in the chat as well. Yeah, we got better targets. So
I think that's it. I think we can just close this and say, hey man, you know, we can't prioritize this. And but at the same time, like, again, everything's open source. So if he needs 2 features from the toolkit and he doesn't want to bring in all the pop-up dependencies and stuff like that, I totally get it. But you're not blocked. You can always just copy paste those out, and I don't know, maybe there will be a real use case, like Android comes out with the phone that only has 50K of memory. I don't know. I can't see that future, but yeah, he's
Not
right.
happy.
He's right. I totally agree with him, but at the same time, gosh, yeah, that's a massive lift for us.
Furthermore,
Cool.
it's only pop-up. Yeah, that is registered in the eye, so probably controllers' views are not affected. So it's only something that we just registered in the eye explicitly. So it's even less dependencies. I don't think it actually works to edit. No.
Cool. So I think we're already over time. Marker, I see none. So thank you all so much for joining. I hope this was as productive for you as it was for us, because I think we, nailed down some of the proposals, shut one down, like always a good idea, but we also have to disappoint some people sometimes. Sorry about that. I hope you will join us again for next month. Special thanks to Vladislav and Sean, who were kind of like not supposed to be here, Sean especially, but you joined in just because you wanted to save this discussion and not derail too much. So that's really great. All right, see you for the next one in October. Ta-ta.
Bye, all.
Bye, everybody.